If I put John Jones and Tom Aspinall in a thumbnail, I bomb. People are not caring about this fight. I have different guesses why. I hypothesize that the audience doesn't want to get too behind something they're not confident they can get. I think is part of it.
Because right now, he's got everybody on his side. Everybody is like, fight Tom Aspinall. We want to see you fight Tom Aspinall. Hell, there is a petition with over 100,000 signatures to strip John Jones right now.
Tom Aspinall defended his interim heavyweight championship almost a year ago. Yeah. So to have Tom wait till November or December right now is insane. To lose another 18 months of Aspinall's prime. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happens.
UFC legend Chael Sonnen claims that the fans are fed up with the wait for the Tom Aspinall versus John Jones fight and have lost interest in this fight. Chael Sonnen believes the hype around John Jones versus Tom Aspinall is fading. He said fan interest is dropping, and even his YouTube videos about the fight perform poorly. I bomb if I put John Jones and Tom Aspinall in a thumbnail, Sonnen said. He thinks fans aren't confident the fight will happen and don't want to get invested. This fight has not gotten bigger, it's gotten smaller, and people care less about it now.
I can't even make money with these guys. On my YouTube channel, I'm not only audited, I am publicly audited. You can go and see what the people are. I am bombing. If I put John Jones and Tom Aspinall in a thumbnail, I bomb. People are not caring about this fight. I have different guesses why. I hypothesize that the audience doesn't want to get too behind something they're not confident they can get. I think is part of it. But I'm just telling you, as time is going on, this fight, unlike other fights, has not gotten bigger. It has gotten smaller. People are caring less and less.
Chael Sonnen said the John Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight is losing momentum, unlike other fights that build over time. He noted it won't be a massive ticket seller or pay-per-view success. Sonnen believes if the fight had happened last November when Jones was in the spotlight with Elon Musk and others, it could have been the biggest in the sport. Now, it lacks that same impact.
I've seen this happen many times, boxing, even some wrestling stuff, and it grew. This fight is going the other direction. It doesn't overly matter if they book this fight or they bring Surreal in. It doesn't overly matter. You got about 12 to 14,000 tickets in any given venue. You're going to sell about 12 to 14,000 tickets in any given venue. The pay-per-view is not going to go off the chart. But if I was to go back to November of last year when John Jones is hitting the president's dance and he's got Elon and everybody, what a powerful moment. And that would have been the biggest fight in the industry. That would have wiped out any notion of Francis Ngannou versus John Jones, just for example, which a year prior was the biggest fight in our industry.
Chael Sonnen also pointed out that the torch wasn't passed from Francis Ngannou to Tom Aspinall. It originally went to Sergey Pavlovich, who was seen as the real threat to John Jones. But Tom beat Sergey and took that spot. Sonnen emphasized that fans don't wait around for fights to happen, not for Francis, not for Sergey, and not for John Jones either.
That's not a torch that Francis handed to Tom. That was a torch that went to Sergey Pavlovich. Sergey Pavlovich was supposed to be the big scary one in John's closet that John would never face. And Tom took that from him. So, it's kind of a hot potato that moves quickly. But I bring that example up because people don't wait. They didn't wait for Francis. They didn't wait for Sergey. They're not going to wait for John. And that's just the truth.
Furthermore, Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen talked about the viral petition to strip John Jones. Cormier highlighted that there's a petition with over 100,000 signatures to strip John Jones, emphasizing that Tom Aspinall is the rightful contender. He noted the risk Jones faces if he alienates fans too much. They might demand not only that Jones be stripped, but that Aspinall lose recognition for not fighting. Chael Sonnen agreed, adding that Aspinall remains the victim and babyface because he's willing to fight anyone while waiting on the UFC, maintaining a positive public image despite the delay.
There is a petition with over 100,000 signatures to strip John Jones right now. Tom is the guy. You don't want to turn the fans though. He's got to be very careful not to turn him. So when you watch that, Chael, do you worry that if he starts to play that behavior too much, eventually the fans go, not only does John Jones need to be stripped, you do too because you haven't fought.
It's a very interesting spot. Yeah, no, you make a great point. I think the one difference is the willingness. And Tom isn't even just saying, give me John.
Yep.
He's saying, give me anybody, but upgrade my belt. I know that's not what he means. I know he means he wants John, but I do think that that Aspinall will stay the victim. He'll stay the babyface as long as he stays with the story of, I'm willing to fight and I'll do it against anybody. Just waiting for Dana.
Chael Sonnen also said that Jon Jones is not afraid to fight anyone, nor would he just hand over his belt. He also doubts Jones has made enough money to retire comfortably without fighting. Sonnen thinks Jones has to fight, seeing it as the only viable option, though he might be toying with the situation to keep fans guessing. He added that if Jones refuses to fight Tom Aspinall, Jones likely won't fight at all, since the UFC typically doesn't allow a reigning champion to avoid challengers.
I just don't buy that Jon Jones is afraid to fight somebody. I just don't buy that he's going to let him take the belt away. I don't buy that he's made enough money that he can walk away. I don't think it's even an option. I think that he's got to fight, and I think that that's just fine. But I'm sharing with you that I think you're right. I think he's having a little bit of fun with them. And who knows how far he'll take it. I mean, if Jon Jones doesn't want to fight Aspinall, he doesn't get to fight anymore. That is the UFC's policy, not to mention he's a champion. That's the way it works.
On the other hand, Gilbert Burns believes the drama surrounding Jon Jones is likely a negotiation tactic. He suspects serious talks are happening behind the scenes, even if it appears chaotic. Burns said once Jones confirms he's fighting, the hype will return fast. He predicts the fight will happen at the end of the year, possibly in November at Madison Square Garden.
Do you feel that this whole thing is just a ploy and they're actually negotiating behind the scenes?
I think so.
You do think so? Because I do too, but like, it's gotten so crazy that now you start to have some doubts. Like, is he kind of just throwing this and taunting the fans and UFC, or is this just a negotiation tactic and they're actually having serious conversations behind the scenes?
I agree. I do believe it's negotiations going on. They get that food. That food is boiling. People, and eventually Jon Jones, yes, I'm fighting, and then people, everybody's gonna turn in.
Bro, if that happens, it's gonna be. I think it's gotta be December. You gotta end the year with this fight.
I think it's November. I think it's New York.
Either way.
Gilbert believes Jon Jones has a lot at stake. If Tom Aspinall wins, especially by knockout early, it could seriously damage Jones's legacy. However, he knows that at this point in his career, Jon Jones has a lot of excuses to make even after an embarrassing defeat. He also thinks that people would likely say Jones is past his prime and not the fighter he once was. Even a close loss might be manageable, but a quick knockout would be harsh on his reputation.
I mean, it's getting...
Jon Jones has a lot to lose, right? But let's just think Jon Jones lost. Let's just think that fight happened, Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall wins. And it's a close fight and people think too. I don't think it's that easy.
Right.
But let's presume that Tom Aspinall win. Bro, Jon Jones has so much excuse. I have a year layoff. I was old. This and that. He's not gonna damage his legacy that much.
But if he gets knocked out cold in the first round, what do you think?
Yeah, the people are going to say, oh, he's still old. Jon Jones on his prime would kill these guys.
It just sucks to go out that way when he's been flawless, you know?
Yeah.
Gilbert Burns believes that if the payday is big enough, Jon Jones won't care about the risks and will accept the fight. He's very confident the fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall will happen.
But at the end of the day, if the check is big enough, does he really care?
The check is big enough. The check will be big enough. And then I'm telling you guys right now, that fight's happening.
Really?
Yes, this
You're
fight's
that
happening.
sure?
I'm that sure.
So if you had to bet on it, if you had the place...
I'm not betting, but this fight, I really believe, I strongly believe that fight's happening.
Burns also talked about the recent viral social media petition to strip Jon Jones. He jokingly said that the petition for the fight was pushed by Dana White, showing serious intent behind making it happen.
Bro, that petition, who made that petition, bro? It was freaking Dana White making that petition, so everyone's talking about it. And, bro, who made was MMA
It was
Guru?
a social media account that made it.
MMA Guru?
I don't know at this point.
Moicano?
Meanwhile, a lot of UFC fans believe Jon Jones is getting special treatment from the UFC, and if there was anyone else, they would have stripped him by now. MMA analyst Luke Thomas explains that Dana White's special treatment of Jon Jones might be because they see the Jones versus Aspinall fight as a major event tied to a new TV deal. This could be why they are holding off on making the fight until 2026. However, Thomas thinks this long delay is unlikely, though it can't be completely ruled out.
Why do you think Dana White has given him the benefit of the doubt to this degree over so many people in the past here. What is it about Jon Jones, do you think, for Dana White that just makes him so obsessed about treating him so differently to some of these bigger superstars in the past that he just would not even negotiate with?
So a few different theories. We should sort of list them here. One is that the idea is they're holding Jon versus Tom as a big fight that they can make with a new television deal. Now, in order for that to make sense, that means they're not putting the fight until 2026, which,
oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, I can't rule that out. That you couldn't rule it out, but I don't think that's the likeliest.
Luke Thomas points out that the Jones versus Aspinall fight carries extra weight because it's a heavyweight unification bout, meaning both fighters would walk away with a title on the line. This adds significant promotional value, not just for the fight poster, but for press events, media week, and overall marketing. Having two belts at stake makes the matchup much more compelling and marketable to fans and broadcasters alike. Luke suggests this is probably a key reason Dana White and the UFC are hesitant to strip Jon Jones of his title right now, as they want to preserve the buildup and maximize the event's impact and revenue potential.
They're right in one sense, which is this fight is much bigger if it's a heavyweight unification, right? If it is one guy walks out with the title, another guy walks out with the title, and then boom, you have that on the poster, you have that to sell, you have that at press events, you have that for media week. It does make a difference, okay? So that's not a reason to like ignore what the situation is, but I'm saying that probably plays some role that they don't want to strip him on that one.
John and Nick also argued that Jon Jones should be stripped of the title, pointing out that Tom Aspinall defended his interim heavyweight belt nearly a year ago. He emphasized that making Aspinall wait until November or December is unreasonable and risks wasting more of Aspinall's prime. A Neck expressed surprise if the UFC doesn't take action soon, such as stripping Jones or vacating the belt.
They should just strip him of the title. I mean, everybody's waiting for the fight.
Tom Aspinall defended his interim heavyweight championship almost a year ago.
Yeah.
So to have Tom wait till November or December right now is insane. To lose another 18 months of Aspinall's prime. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if something happens in terms of a strip or a vacation.
You know the other guy's doing it on purpose. It's a mind game. So I think the UFC has to step in and make a decision.
Meanwhile, the petition to strip Jon Jones has reached over 150,000 signatures, and the numbers are increasing each day. Tom Aspinall also shared the link to that petition on his social media account so that more people could sign that petition. Earlier, Ariel Helwani also highlighted this topic when the petition to strip Jon Jones crossed 100,000 signatures. He explained that Jones claims if he told the UFC months ago he wasn't interested in fighting, then the responsibility for the delay isn't his anymore. While Helwani agreed with this point, he noted it was complicated because the UFC had already met Jones's demands earlier. If Jones indeed informed them months ago that he was out, some of the blame shifts back to him for not providing Tom Aspinall a fight. This situation has sparked debate over who is truly responsible for the ongoing delay.
What about this? There are people who have started a petition to strip Jon Jones. We're now at 115,135 as of maybe an hour or two ago when we took this screen grab. John does also bring up a good point. If John told the UFC like 2 months ago, hey, I'm not interested, it's no longer on him.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? So like, you remember one time I sat here and I said the UFC is not to blame? And I said that because they met the number. But now if he tells them, hey, I'm not interested, all right, you could say, well, you're to blame because maybe you told them, hey, if you meet this number, I'm fighting. And then you could say, all right, UFC is now back to blame because he told them 2 months ago, you know, I'm out. Why didn't you give Tom Aspinall a fight? There's this whole thing now.
However, Daniel Cormier emphasized that Jon Jones is not afraid, but acknowledged that Tom Aspinall poses a real knockout threat. He urged people not to confuse hesitation with fear, but admitted it's reasonable to question the situation. Cormier explained that Aspinall's power could legitimately put Jones out cold, and Jones might be reluctant to risk that damaging image.
He's not scared. Make no mistake about it. But I think it's enough to like question it. And you know what I think a big worry might be for him? Because with Aspinall, he could potentially get knocked out. Like legitimately knocked out and put on his back and out cold. And I just don't know that he wants to have that visual of him in the world.
Daniel Cormier believes Jon Jones won't vacate the title without fighting Tom Aspinall, as Jones's ego wouldn't accept the lasting impression that he ran from Aspinall. Cormier thinks the fear of being seen as afraid would bother Jones more than the fight itself. He also acknowledges Jones could outclass Aspinall in the matchup. Despite Jones's legacy already being secure, Cormier feels the desire to avoid the running away label will drive Jones to take the fight as he advances in his career.
I don't know that he vacates without fighting him, because I think the visual and
Really?
I think the lasting thought would be that he ran from him, and I don't know that his ego could handle that he ran from someone. I think that the idea that people would think that he is afraid means more to him than going out there and fighting him and taking the chance, especially when there's a real possibility that he just outclasses Tom Aspinall. Like, there's a real possibility,
There's a real possibility of that.
that he goes out there and he just outclasses Tom Aspinall. You don't know, right? So I think that he'll fight him. I don't think they'll need to strip him. I think he'll fight him. And even though you're right, you can walk away and go, I'm the best. I don't need to do anything else. That idea that you ran is going to be too strong of a pull for him as he goes into the next phase of his career, and I think he's going to fight him.
However, Michael Bisping is not happy with this situation and criticized Jon Jones for refusing to fight Tom Aspinall and called on him to either defend or vacate the UFC heavyweight title. He reminded fans that Jones was once given a title shot as the youngest UFC champion and now has a responsibility to give the next generation their chance. Bisping highlighted that although Jones often talks about rising young fighters, he seems unwilling to face Aspinall. He emphasized that being champion comes with duties, and if Jones won't defend the belt, he should step aside.
But for Jon to not want to give this guy an opportunity, where other people gave him an opportunity, he was the youngest champion in this sport, and he's always talking about, oh, there's always going to be younger guys coming along. Well, what about when you were fighting for the belt and you were the youngest person to ever do it? You got that opportunity, and when you become the champion, there is an obligation to do that. So defend or vacate. It's that simple. And all these cryptic tweets and going out to Thailand and living his best life and shit, great. If that's what you want to do, congratulations, go off, enjoy your life, but do the decent thing.
Michael Bisping also believes Tom Aspinall would defeat Jon Jones, stating, "I think Tom smashes him." He acknowledged that Jones is likely very aware of the threat Aspinall poses, not because Jones doubts himself, but because he knows it would be a serious challenge. Bisping emphasized that all elite fights are meant to be tough and come with risk, saying, "They're all tough fights. They're supposed to be tough."
I think Tom smokes him. I do. And I think Jon is probably very conscious of that threat as well. I'm not saying he doesn't think he can win, but he understands that this will be a tough fight. But they're all tough fights. They're all supposed to be tough fights.
On the other hand, Ben Askren expressed a desire to give Jon Jones a truth serum to have an honest conversation and get clear answers. He noted that Jones sends mixed signals and vibes, making it hard to read him. While acknowledging Jones's resume places him among the greatest fighters ever, Askren feels Jones's career is somewhat unfinished, with a sense that the full promise or prophecy of his legacy hasn't been completely realized, partly due to past drug issues.
I would love to be able to like pour some truth serum down Jon Jones's throat and actually just like talk to him and just, get some real answers, because he puts all these different like vibes out there. And I mean, I would have to, so just looking at his resume, and people can argue this, obviously one of the greatest ever.
Yes, he is.
Based on his
Without
wins.
question.
You have some of the drug stuff, which you could argue, but he is. But then it's like, it feels almost like the prophecy wasn't fulfilled.
Ben Askren also highlighted Jon Jones's early dominance, recalling how Jones frequently fought and crushed opponents around 2011 to 2012 after winning the title. However, over time, Askren observed increasingly long layoffs between Jones's fights. Despite Jones being young then, Askren pointed out that there are about 4 periods in his career where he went over a year without fighting.
We'll say 2011, I think is when he first won the title, or 12, somewhere in there. That's a long time ago. And he was crushing dudes, and he was fighting a lot. And then it was like gap after gap after gap.
He was young though.
He was young, absolutely. But there's probably, I would venture to guess, I'll look up his resume. I would venture to guess there's probably 4 gaps in Jon Jones' resume that are a year plus between fights.
So that's all we have from today's video, and share your thoughts on whether Jon Jones will be stripped or not. Also, let us know in the comments section that do you really think that the fans are losing interest in the Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight?